Yeah, so, my name is, I'll just do it to the camera, shall I?
Yeah.
My name's David Ty. I'm now the Outreach Director at Teen Challenge London, but that wasn't always the way, because I was a heroin addict and I was a chronic alcoholic, and I'm now 51. Now, my father, he was actually a famous racing cyclist. He was actually a British road race champion on a push bike. He was in the Tour de France, and so I came from a good home. He made quite a lot of money from his cycling career, and with that money he actually started a chain of jeweller shops in South London. And I left school at the age of 15 and started working in those shops, but I'd already started drinking and smoking. And then one day I took an LSD tablet, which is known on the streets over here as acid, and I took an acid tablet. It completely blew my mind, and as far as I was concerned, I'd entered into another world, stepped through a spiritual dimension. And this world that I'd entered into, I just wanted to be in that all the time. And so I completely lost interest in my father's business, and I became a drug dealer in South London. And I thought that's what life was all about, was making money and just leading a party type lifestyle. I was drinking, smoking, I was taking crack cocaine. I used to get up in the morning injecting amphetamine sulfate, and I was leading this mad lifestyle. I was buying and selling classic cars for a bit, and I also started a business in the south of France, selling jet skis and renting out jet skis in the south of France. And I was doing all this with a guy who's now my brother-in-law, who's a pastor, and we thought we was really Jack the Lads. We say in England, we're Jack the Lads, we've got it sussed. Really thought we had it going on. And, then something happened. I come from a family of four people. There's four of us. I have two sisters and I have a brother. And even though we was a good family financially, our family was dysfunctional. My father used to drink a bit, and he started drinking, and he used to hit my mum, and I had a lot of animosity towards my father over this, and so I was rebellious. But what happened, my little sister, she went to school and she joined a Christian fellowship, and she started praying for her family. And before I knew what had happened, my other sister, who was actually practicing as a white witch at the time, she was involved in tarot cards. She actually went to America and worked with Robin Gibb from the Bee Gees. And she was involved in all this tarot cards and dodgy stuff. And before I knew what happened, my mother got saved. She became born-again Christian. Amen. And when my sister came back from America, she took one look at my mother and said, "I want what you've got," because she could see Jesus in her. And she got saved. Amen. And then my girlfriend got saved. Amen. And then the guy who's now my brother-in-law, I remember him distinctly at my house, and he was outside. He said, "Your sister's gone mad, Dave. She won't stop talking about Jesus all the time." And I said, "Look, she's just a phase she's going through. Don't worry about it." And I remember him chain smoking outside my house, walking up and down. And then the next thing I know, he's got saved as well. And he was my business partner. So as far as I was concerned, this was a disaster, because he was telling everyone how much we paid for the cars, and he was being honest. And this was it wasn't. It ruined the business plans. Drug dealing finished, and so I took a look at Christianity, went to a few meetings, and I even made a commitment, I think, at one meeting, and I never really. I just thought, this isn't for me. I wasn't ready. And so I took a look and decided it wasn't for me, and I chose a different path. And the path that I chose led me to destruction. It led me to almost the point of death. And for 15 years, I went down this pathway of drug dealing, and I ended up a heroin addict. I'd always said I'd never touch heroin. But because of the manic lifestyle I was involved with, I ended up with guns to my head, people tried to rob me, and I ended up in some real serious situations. And I know it's only God's hand on my life that got me out of those situations. And I remember being in my flat, and I'd started using heroin just to take the edge off, because I was using pure amphetamine sulfate and crack cocaine, and I was mad.
My Lord.
And
Jesus.
Smoking skunk constantly, and drinking heavily all the time. And I remember I started dabbling with heroin. When I started dabbling with heroin, it wasn't long before heroin totally had a grip of me. I was injecting within weeks, and then I knew I was in real serious trouble. This drug had complete grip on my life, and it told me what to do. It dictated everything about me. I was no longer able to function, running businesses, although I was just a slave to this drug. And I knew I was in trouble, and I knew I had to get off it. And I remember being in my flat, and I just said, I've got to come off this drug. And I remember my sister, she invited me around for dinner, and I went round there, and I was a heroin addict, and she put a DVD on, and it was this guy called, I forgot his name, is the Jellyfish Man, Ian McCormack.
Yeah,
he has this testimony where he goes to hell.
There's a new
and I thought, if that guy has gone to hell, and he said all the stuff he'd done, I knew at that point I was definitely going to hell. I knew the stuff I'd done, I was going to hell. And I went back to my flat and got on my knees and give my life to the Lord. In fact, I started reading the Gospel of Matthew, and the words of Jesus just started leaping out of me. And I got on my knees, and I made a commitment to God, and I didn't really feel anything. And then I felt a desire to forgive people, all the drug dealers I was in conflict with, and as I started forgiving people, I felt waves of the Holy Spirit just came over me, and I started speaking in tongues, started coming out of me, and everything, and I just knew God was real at that point. I got such a touch from God, and I knew He was real, and I stopped taking drugs. Supernaturally, I stopped taking drugs for about 6 days, but I was really, I got baptised. After my baptism, though, I slipped back into drug taking, and I knew I had to get out of London, so I just thought, right, I'm going to go and study theology. I'm a Christian now, I'm going to go and study theology. I still had a drink problem though. I'd stopped taking drugs, but I still had a drink problem, and I went and did this degree course in theology against my pastor's advice. He said, look Dave, you're still struggling with alcohol, like, that's not a good thing to do, go to university where it's a drinking culture there. And so after a couple of years at university, I knew I was in trouble, and I looked for help, and I found out about this place called Teen Challenge. And when I went for an interview here, I came for an interview, and when they told me what the programme entailed, I thought, there's no way I need to go through that, because it's like going in the army. Going in the Teen Challenge is like going in the army, and God is the Sergeant Major. And I thought, you have to tuck your shirt in, you have to be up for like first thing in the morning, you have to do everything properly. I thought, I don't need that, I'm still going to be able to come off drugs. Another 2 years went by, and my liver was packing up, and every doorway of escape was closed to me, and I knew I had to go Teen Challenge, because I was started trying to work. I managed to get the degree, because that was a miracle, and I started trying to work. I couldn't function without having a drink, because I was shaking so much every time I stopped drinking, and so I wasn't able to drive. Anyway, I knew the time was right, and so I came to Teen Challenge. As soon as I got Teen Challenge, I thought I knew everything. I've now got a degree in theology. I thought I know everything about God. I was thinking, what can these people show me? But after a week here, I knew these people had something that was missing in my life, because I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. And it was the studies here that brought me into the right relationship with the Lord. So I went through the programme. I was here for 6 months. In those days, this centre was an induction centre, and we used to do the re-entry phases of the programme down at the main centre, which was in Wales. So I went down to Wales, and I went through the School of Ministry down in Wales there, and I was down there for a year, and I started working as a staff member in Wales. But then I felt the Lord calling me back to London, and I came back here, worked for a year as a staff member here, and then the project leader said, look Dave, we want to start the outreach work again, because the outreach had been neglected for a while. And when I turned up, a cheque turned up for £30,000. He said, we're going to go and get a bus. And so I started the outreach, and that has grown. Like in the last 7 years, it's really grown. And it's nothing I've done, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just prayed. I remember having no volunteers, and now we've got teams of volunteers, and God has just brought people. And so I give Him all the glory, all the praise, what He's doing. We're at 6 nights a week. We run 4 drop-in centres now as well, and it's just wonderful to be part of what God's doing.
Amen.
Thanks for this donation.
Amen.
Glory to God. That's my question, Pastor.
Amen.
That's my question.
So, what would you say to someone out there that has an addiction? I've tried everything, and they're still thinking there's no hope for them, and there's no chance for them to come back into society. What would you say to them?
Well, I'd say, the fact that they're still drawing breath means that God has not given up on them yet, and God's got a plan and purpose for their life, and they need to just step into it, I mean, I'd say there's hope, they need to give their life to the Lord. Everything I did in my life, up until when I became a Christian, was a waste of time, really. It was just all leading up to that one decision, And I tried everything as well, all other types of detoxes and everything. But it's like God wanted me here. He wanted me here to be discipled. He wanted to show me how to live my life properly.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then you're saying that with God, all things are possible.
Amen. Yeah, if it's possible for me,
Amen.
It's possible for anyone.
Amen. If someone is hearing this tape, what would you say is your greatest need right now for this ministry to be expanded? If someone wanted to donate back in America, what would you say to them?
Well, we're after that building there, and that building is going to cost $1 million. And so we haven't got the funds, but we're standing in faith for that building at the moment. And that's going to be a trade school. And so we're claiming that in the name of Jesus.
So that would be £1 million, but in the US it would be equated to $2 million on our side, around about that.
Yeah, maybe $1.5 million.
$1.5 million.
Yeah, it's maybe that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you guys have heard that there's a great work going on here. Lives are being changed. Lives are being transformed. People are being made whole. People are being renewed in the spirit of their mind. And the people that came here with the last resort have been revived, and they're now living again for the sake of the gospel. And so this is a godly project. This is a good project. And this is a kingdom mandate that God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask or think. And there's no impossibility with God. God bless you.
Thank you.
Amen.